These are the video notes for solving equations. Let's start by reading the problem. Mr. Taylor had 39 markers and bought 2 more markers per week for X weeks. Mrs. Bailey had 3 markers and bought 4 times as many markers per week as Mr. Taylor. How many weeks will it take for Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Bailey to have an equal number of markers? To solve this type of problem, we can write an equation and then solve that equation. We know from the problem we want them to have an equal amount. So I'm just going to set up in words first. I know I want Mr. Taylor, his amount of markers, to equal the amount of markers that Mrs. Bailey has. So I'm going to go back to the problem and write what I can about Mr. Taylor. I know that he starts with 39 markers, so 39, and he buys 2 more markers every week, and weeks are represented by X. So it's going to be 2 times the number of weeks, or 2 times X. So Mr. Taylor starts with 39, and then he adds 2 markers every week. So plus 2 times X. All of that is going to be equal to what Mrs. Bailey has. So let's go back to the problem and read what we know about Mrs. Bailey. She had 3 markers. So she starts with 3. And then she buys 4 times as many markers per week as Mr. Taylor. Well, Mr. Taylor buys 2 more markers per week. So if Mrs. Bailey is doing 4 times as much as that, she's doing 4 times 2, because Mr. Bailey buys 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. So that means Mrs. Bailey is adding 8 markers every week. Now we have an equation, and we want to figure out what does X have to be? What does the number of weeks have to be? And we can use our calculators. Specifically, we can use the nsolve function. And the steps for how to do the nsolve function are printed on your paper here in the bottom left. And I'm going to show you right now how to do that in your calculator. Step number 1 is to press menu right here. After you press menu, you're going to go down and select algebra. And then from algebra, you select numerical solve. Then you'll get nsolve. And then you're going to type in the equation that you're trying to solve. So let's go back to our equation. We're trying to solve 39 plus 2x equals 3 plus 8x. Let's type that in. 39 plus 2x, x is at the bottom here, right there, equals, which is here, and I forgot what it was. It was 3 plus 8x. 3 plus 8x. Now I've typed in the equation. After I type in the equation, I put a comma, comma is at the bottom left of your calculator, over here, so comma, and then the variable that you're trying to solve for, x. So I have my equation, comma, and then the variable that I'm trying to solve for. Then I can press enter, and it will solve the equation for me, and I get the number 6. So go back here, x is equal to 6. So it's going to take 6 weeks for them to have the same amount of markers.